Hey y'all, howdy. Welcome to One for the Books. I'm Sandra Broadwell, and today we're going to talk about 12 of the most anticipated fantasy and science fiction books that I am looking forward to in 2024. Let's dive in. I'm going to try and keep this brief because the sun has already set and I have a limited amount of daylight to work with here. There are so many fantasy and sci-fi books coming out next year that look so good. So in order to help me narrow it down, I decided to only mention the books that I have a stake in. So either I have read these authors before, it's an ongoing series that I've already started, or potentially it is a series that I already had in my mind to get started in 2024. So those are the parameters. In order of anticipated release date, these could obviously change between now and then, but the first one is on February 13th, and that is What Feasts at Night by T. Kingfisher. This is a sequel to What Moves the Dead, which was a retelling of The Fall of the House of Usher by Edgar Allan Poe. I thought T. Kingfisher did an amazing job with the retelling. As a fan of the original myself, this sequel is following the same, I think, character or set of characters in a new adventure. And I really thought the culture and kind of the gender norms that she played with in that story were really interesting. And it was very just creepy and cool. So obviously the cover for this one looks just as stunning as the original, and that's always a selling point as well. I also really loved Nettle and Bone by T. Kingfisher, so this will be my third book by her. Then on February 20th, we have The Ashfire King by Chelsea Abdullah. This is the second book. The first book was The Stardust Thief. I just read The Stardust Thief for my gin and tonic reading vlog, which I will link in the description below, but I really enjoyed this one. It was a cool kind of magical adventure quest story where our main character is a woman called the Midnight Merchant, and she is a dealer in the black market of magical relics. And there's a cool story behind the magical relics that you uncover as the story goes along. And the story really kicks off when she is captured when there is a raid on the black market by the Sultan, and he sends her on this quest to go recover a relic that he has been looking for. And if she doesn't go on this quest for him, he's going to throw her in jail forever. So I really thought the characters in this were really interesting. The world building was super cool. It was kind of based on the 1001 Arabian Nights, and I just loved all the mythology of it. So I'm very much looking forward to The Ashfire King. Next, we're skipping March and going straight into April. April is pretty stacked, starting with two different books that come out both on April 2nd. The first of those is A Witch's Guide to Magical Innkeeping by Sengu Mandana. This is a companion novel to The Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches, which was a book that I read in October this year, and it was such a delightful, like, cozy romance fantasy with witchy vibes. I don't think this one has any of the same characters, but again, it's set in the same world. Definitely just by the title alone, it has that sort of cozy feeling again, and so I'm really hoping for a second big hit from this author. The next book that comes out on April 2nd is The Disquiet Gods by Christopher Rocchio. This is book number 6 in the Sun Eater series, which I have not started, but it is one of my plans in 2024 to start the Sun Eater series. The first book in that is The Empire of Silence, and this is a science fiction or sci-fantasy story about a unlikable main character who has destroyed a sun or a planet or maybe both and completely committed genocide against an entire planet. And I believe it's told in the kind of the narrative of the main character is reflecting back on how he got to this point. And everyone that I know that has read it has just raved about how cool it is, and I'm really excited to dive in. On April 9th, the next one is The Book That Broke the World by Mark Lawrence. This is the book number 2 in the library trilogy, which started with The Book That Wouldn't Burn, which came out just this year. The Book That Wouldn't Burn was so wonderful. It is about two young people who come from very different backgrounds. One of them grew up in the library, the other one grew up in the dust, which is like this neglected desert area kind of cast out from society. Their stories interweave, they explore this magical library. There's different timelines happening and you're trying to figure out the whole time what's happening at what times, and there were just some really compelling plot twists that I did not see coming. I had theories while I was reading that book about what was happening, and then my theories were completely wrong and what was happening was actually way cooler. I just thought it was super awesome and definitely an underrated new release of this year. So very much looking forward to the second book in the trilogy. On April 11th, the next one is The Lotus Empire by Tasha Suri. This is book 3 in the Burning Kingdoms trilogy, which starts with the Jasmine Throne. I read the Jasmine Throne earlier this year. I have not yet gotten to book 2, which is the Oleander Sword, but I thought the world building in book 1 was really neat. It is a fantasy epic set in kind of a alternate India. There is a huge power struggle happening between different factions within the empire. There are 3 different female protagonists that all have very different perspectives and goals. One of them is kind of an outcast in society. One of them is the emperor's sister, and she has been thrown in jail for not being devout enough to their religion. And the other one is the wife of like a governor of the state. I loved how their stories kind of interweaved. I loved, like I said, the world building. The temple that a lot of the story took place in was super neat. I just thought all of that was cool. So I'm very much looking forward to getting to the second and third book by the time this one comes out in April. Then on April 23rd, we have The Dead Cattail Assassins by P. Jolly Clark. I read 2 books by P. Jolly Clark earlier this year. I read Ring Shout, which is a horror novella, and A Master of Gin for the Gin and Tonic reading vlog. I absolutely loved both of these books. Ring Shout is actually going to be in my top 10 books of the year, and even A Master of Gin. I just feel like this author has such an amazing way with words. He can pack a punch into such little amount of space, and he really just is a master of like building up to a really epic climax. So The Dead Cattail Assassins is supposed to be about this group of assassins who are resurrected from the dead. Their memories are wiped, and then they're sent on these various missions. They're not supposed to remember anything from their previous life, and they're not supposed to fail any missions. The plot is seemingly a woman gets sent on a mission. She does start to remember things about her past life, and it's tied in with the mission that she has been assigned to, and it starts to bring to question kind of everything that she knows. So that just sounds amazing, and I can't wait. Then on May 7th, we have The Brides of High Hill by Neve Vo. This is another novella in the series that starts with The Empress of Salt and Fortune. I have not read any of the books in this series yet. I think this is book number 5 potentially, but they're all very short, like around 100 pages. From what I know, each one is very different, but they all follow the same main character throughout. I really don't know hardly anything about this series, but I've heard really great things about it, and the covers are just so cool. And that alone, I mean, makes me want to pick them up. So looking forward to getting to those next year. Book number 9 on June 4th is Mirrored Heavens by Rebecca Roanhorse. This is the 3rd and final book in the Between Earth and Sky trilogy, which starts with Black Sun. I just read Black Sun and Fevered Star back to back in November this year. Black Sun is possibly also a new fave of mine. It is based on a pre-Columbian Native American societies, and there's interactions between different tribes that are competing for power, as well as old religions and new religions. One of their gods comes back and is resurrected, and that kind of shifts the entire balance of power throughout the countryside. There's just so much cool stuff that's going on, and I can't wait to see how epic the finale is. Number 10 on August 6th, we have The Mercy of Gods by James S.A. Corey. This is a brand new series by this author, and I'm so excited because James S.A. Corey was the author of the Expanse series, which I absolutely loved. If you followed my channel, you know that I have a whole series of videos about that. I also really love the TV show, but this author is actually 2 different authors that came together to write the series, and I kind of just thought that they wouldn't do anything together anymore after The Expanse, even though those were so successful. I just kind of thought they're probably tired of that partnership, and I'm so glad that I'm wrong. The Mercy of Gods is a new sci-fi. Sounds like it's going to be the start of a new series with them, and it is about, I think, the destruction of Earth, and the best of humanity are kidnapped by this alien species right before they destroy the planet, and then they are put in sort of a gladiator, Hunger Games style competition between themselves and other species from other planets that this alien species has also destroyed. So it is literally a fight for survival of the human race, which just sounds really cool. Supposedly there's going to be some really angsty betrayals in there as well. So can't wait to get my hands on the next thing by this author duo. Second to last, on December 7th, we have The Knights of Wind and Truth by Brandon Sanderson. This is the 5th and final book of the Stormlight Archives Era 1. Supposedly there's going to be another Stormlight Archives series with another 5 books, but I think Brandon Sanderson is waiting several years before he gets started on that one. So this is kind of the official wrap-up of his most popular series. I have not read the Stormlight Archive. I have read Mistborn Era 1 and Mistborn Era 2, and that is it for my Brandon Sanderson at the moment. So I am super duper excited to finally dive into his most popular series, and I plan to read the first 4 books in the series earlier in the year so that by the time the 5th and final book comes out in December, I can be a part of all of the buzz and the hype around it. I cannot wait. And then finally, my last science fiction fantasy book, number 12, that I am really excited for is unconfirmed for 2024, but I think the general consensus is that it will be coming out next year, and that is Red God by Pierce Brown. Red God is book number 7 in the Red Rising series. This is another one that has multiple eras. So there's Red Rising Era 1, which is the original trilogy, and Red Rising Era 2, which will have 4 books total. Red God is the finale of all of them. I actually just started reading Red Rising like 2 days ago. I have never read the series before, but I have heard so many amazing things about it. And I've heard that even if you don't like the first book that much, that it just gets better and better and better. So I really am excited about this. My husband has read the series and really loves it. And so he's going to be rereading it with me, which is going to be super fun. So those are the 12 books that I am most excited about in 2024. I've never done a video like this before, at least not prior to the year that the books come out, because I have not traditionally been the type of reader that keeps up with new releases. I think I only read like 3 books that came out in 2023 this year. So I want to be a little bit better about in the future and at least read the books that I'm really hyped about and not just continue to let my backlist build up as much, even though I'm still going to be mostly reading a lot of backlist books. That's one of my goals for 2024. I'll be doing another whole goals video and priority series video, which you kind of already got a sneak peek of right here today. But yeah, I think 2024 is going to be a super fun year for reading, and I hope you guys will follow along and be a part of it with me. Thanks so much for tuning in and hanging out for a little bit. As always, please be kind, read books, and hit the subscribe button below for more bookish content to come. I'll see you soon.